The bridge of the vast seeker shimmered with cold blue light as the alien crew burst into fits of laughter. Their bodies were made of translucent gel, every organ glowing faintly within. The sound of their amusement wasn't laughter as humans knew it. It was a chorus of rhythmic clicks and wet echoes that rippled through the air like rainfall on glass. "Captain, their fastest ship can't even reach their own moon in a single cycle," chirped Vri, the navigator, his chest cavity flickering with bright pulses of mirth. "They burn chemical fuel, real fire, just to climb a few 100,000 kilometers." The others howled again, their transparent forms vibrating with laughter. Every rib, vein, and pulsing organ inside their gelatinous shells could be seen twisting in hilarity. Captain Zell leaned back in his command seat, his triple eyes glowing faintly in amusement. "Primitive creatures. Their space program is nothing more than toys thrown at the sky," he said, his voice echoing softly through the bridge. "We've mapped half their system without even being detected. They don't deserve our attention." Near the rear console, the communications officer, a tall being named Kier, lifted his arms, shimmering like a glass sculpture. "Captain, I intercepted their transmissions. They celebrate when they reach their own moon. They throw parties, dance, and cheer for touching a rock they can see from their planet." More laughter erupted. Someone thumped the console so hard the interface flickered. Even Zell's chest flickered with amusement. For weeks, the vast seeker had hovered silently beyond Earth's orbit, observing. It was dull work. Laughing at the natives made it bearable. "They still think their world is the center of the universe," muttered Vri. "We should report back. Tell the council that this humanity is centuries behind us." Zell nodded slowly, his organs pulsing with calm rhythm. "Prepare the warp drive. Once we're home, we can finally forget about these firebound creatures." The crew moved quickly. Panels hummed, lights flickered, and the deep thrum of the warp core began to build. Through the viewing screen, Earth glowed like a blue gem wrapped in silver clouds, beautiful but helpless. And then, "Captain," Kier's voice broke the rhythm of the ship. His entire body flared red with alarm. "Incoming signal." Zell frowned. "From where?" "From the planet, sir." "From Earth." Every heartbeat on the bridge seemed to stop. The laughter died instantly. The glowing organs of each crew member dimmed to pale yellow, confusion and disbelief. "That's impossible," said Zell, rising slowly. "We're far beyond their reach. They have no technology capable of long-range transmission." Kier's fingers shimmered across his console, translucent tendrils tapping frantically. "Sir, I ran 3 diagnostics. It's not a normal radio wave, it's instantaneous. It's using faster-than-light communication protocols, exactly like ours." The bridge fell silent. No one moved. Even the hum of the warp core seemed to fade beneath the weight of what Kier had said. "Repeat that," Zell said quietly, his voice suddenly heavy. "The humans," Kier whispered, "are using FTL communication." Zell's eyes darkened to a deep violet, fear. "That's impossible. They barely understand atomic fusion. They don't even have warp drives. How could they?" A soft chime interrupted him. "Captain," Kier said, trembling, "they're asking to open a visual channel." The crew exchanged stunned glances. It was absurd. A primitive world sending a faster-than-light message to them? It couldn't be real. Zell hesitated for a long moment. Curiosity wrestled with disbelief inside him. Then he took a slow breath, visible through his transparent chest. "Open it," he ordered. The main screen flickered. Static filled the air for half a second, then cleared. A human face appeared. A man, smiling warmly, seated in what looked like an office. Behind him were flags and strange symbols. "Greetings," the man said cheerfully. "This is Ambassador Carter from Earth. We've been watching your ship for some time now. It's nice to finally say hello." The bridge of the vast seeker froze. The crew's translucent forms rippled with shock. The humans smiled wider, showing rows of unervingly white teeth. "And since you've been orbiting our world so long, we decided to return the favor." Zell blinked, all 3 eyes. "Return the favor?" "Oh yes," said the human. "We found your home, and we've just finished building something special on your moon." The crew's hearts began to race, visible as wild flashes of light inside their bodies. The laughter that once filled the bridge was gone. Only silence remained. For several long seconds, no one spoke. The human's face remained on the screen, calm, confident, unervingly sure of himself. Captain Zell stood frozen, his translucent body showing the chaos inside him. His four hearts thudded out of sync, each pulse flickering through his transparent chest. Here, the communication officer broke the silence first. "Captain, should I terminate the transmission?" Zell's triple eyes remained locked on the screen. "No," he said slowly, his voice low but steady. "Let's hear what they think they know." The human leaned forward, resting his chin on one hand. "We've been monitoring your movements around our planet. You're very careful, cloaked, quiet, professional. But you see, Captain, humans are curious too. We like to know who's watching." The alien crew shifted nervously. Some of their organs fluttered with rapid light, an instinctive reaction to fear. Vree, the navigator, whispered, "How can they see us? We're hidden behind a spectral veil. Not even our own satellites could detect that from orbit." Zell didn't answer. His mind was racing. The human spoke with the ease of someone who held the upper hand, and that terrified him. "Here's the fun part," said the human, smiling again. "We traced your path through space. Pretty impressive trail, by the way. And when we followed it, we found something interesting." Zell's second heart skipped a beat. "You followed us." "Oh, more than that," the human said cheerfully. "We sent a few explorers through a little trick of ours. It's not warp travel. Too expensive, too messy. We call them portals. Faster, cleaner, instantaneous. You'll like them." Kier gasped audibly. "Portals." His fingers froze over the controls. "Captain, that's impossible. Spatial puncture mechanics were disproven millennia ago." Zell's voice grew tense. "Explain yourself, human." The man chuckled lightly, as if speaking to a child. "I'd love to, but it's easier to show you. We built a small colony on your system's moon. Just a friendly gesture, you know. A housewarming gift for our new neighbors." The bridge exploded into chaos. The crew shouted in disbelief, their clicking voices overlapping. Pulses of bright orange and red flared through their bodies as fear, confusion, and anger rippled among them. "That's a lie," Vree yelled. "They can't travel that far. Their rockets barely reach orbit." Kier trembled. "Captain, should I cut the link? It could be a psychological attack." Zell raised a hand, commanding silence. "No. Keep it open." He turned back toward the human, who was watching him with the calm patience of a teacher waiting for his student to catch up. "If this is some kind of deception," Zell said, "you're wasting your breath. You cannot cross 300 light cycles without warp travel." The human's grin widened. "Warp, no. But like I said, portals. Instant doors between points in space. Different path, same destination. You bend the universe, we poke holes in it. Everyone has their hobbies." Zell's hearts hammered inside him. The words made no sense. The physics didn't align. Everything he knew told him this should be impossible. Yet the human's tone wasn't one of arrogance. It was of certainty. "Fine," Zell said at last, his voice turning cold. "You claim to have reached our system. Then we'll see for ourselves." The human leaned back, clearly amused. "Oh, please do. Check your moon when you get home. You'll find us there, right where we said. And when you do, Captain, try not to laugh this time." The screen went black. For a long while, the bridge remained utterly silent. The crew stared at the empty screen, the faint reflections of their glowing organs flickering against it. Vree spoke first, his voice trembling. "Captain, if what they said is true." "It's not," Zell interrupted sharply. "It cannot be. Portals break every known law of matter. It's a trick." But even as he said it, his pulse betrayed him. Everyone could see the storm inside him, the racing hearts, the twisting veins, the quick flashes of violet anxiety beneath his transparent skin. "Prepare the warp core," he ordered finally. "We're going home. We'll scan our moon and prove these creatures wrong." The crew obeyed silently, the earlier laughter replaced by a heavy unease. As the vast seeker charged its engines, Zell looked out at the distant blue planet they had mocked only hours before. For the first time since arriving in this system, he wasn't laughing. He was afraid. The stars stretched into blinding streaks as the vast seeker entered warp. Space itself rippled around the vessel, bending and shimmering like light through water. The crew sat in uneasy silence. The laughter that had once filled the bridge was gone, replaced by something far heavier. Captain Zell remained in his seat, motionless. His transparent body glowed faintly, each organ visible beneath the surface. His heart's beat out a fast, uneven rhythm. His crew didn't need words to see what he felt: fear. Kier, at the communication console, was the first to speak. "Captain, permission to ask, do you think the humans were bluffing?" Zell didn't turn. "They must be. Portals are fantasy. The energy required would tear reality apart. Every calculation, every theory says so. But they sent us an FDL signal," Kier said softly. "That shouldn't be possible either." Silence. Zell's organs pulsed dimly. From the rear, Vri spoke in a low voice. "Maybe they found another way. Another rule we don't understand." Zell turned sharply, his triple eyes glowing with irritation. "We are not primitives fumbling in the dark. We define the rules of space." Vri lowered his gaze, but the tension on the bridge didn't fade. Hours passed in wordless quiet. The hum of the engines filled the void. The glowing panels reflected off their translucent bodies, making the whole bridge shimmer like liquid crystal. Finally, Zell stood and walked toward the viewing window. Through the distortion of warp space, the stars looked like rivers of light, cold, endless, and uncaring. He spoke quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. They were laughing at us. Every word, every smile. It was like they already knew the truth. Kier hesitated before replying. "Sir, maybe it's worth hoping they're wrong. Or worth fearing they're not," Vri added. The captain turned back, his eyes dim but sharp. "If they really did build something in our system, it changes everything. Every empire, every hierarchy, every law of the universe will tremble. A primitive world leaping beyond physics, impossible. But so was warp travel once," murmured Kier. Zell said nothing. His silence was louder than any command. They traveled in warp for 2 long days. The vast seeker glided through distorted reality, engines groaning faintly under the strain. Crew members whispered in the corridors. The mess hall stayed empty. Nobody joked anymore about humans or their fire rockets. During the sleep cycle, Zell sat alone in the captain's quarters. A dim blue light glowed around him, revealing his shifting inner organs. He opened an old data file, one containing the mathematical proofs of spatial mechanics. Equations filled the holographic air before him. Every number screamed impossible. And yet, he couldn't forget the human smile. That calm, knowing confidence. Different path, the man had said. Different strengths. Zell clenched his hands until the tendons inside glowed white. Could it be true? Could the universe have left another door open all this time, one his people never noticed? He tried to shake the thought away, but it clung to him like static. The next cycle, the bridge lights brightened, signaling their approach. Mara, the navigator, broke the silence. "Captain, we're less than 1 unit from home space. Shall I drop us from warp on arrival?" Zell nodded. His voice was steady again, though his inner glow trembled. "Yes. Prepare long-range scans of our second planet and its moon. Full spectrum sweep." The crew obeyed without a word. Minutes crawled by. The ship's hum grew louder as the warp field began to thin. Outside, the flow of light twisted into stillness. Stars returned to their rightful shapes. Dropping out of warp in 3, 2, 1. Reality snapped back. The familiar red glow of their home star filled the viewing window. 5 planets shone like faint jewels around it. Their system, peaceful, predictable, safe. Zell's hearts eased for the first time in days. Until Mara spoke. "Captain, I'm reading something unusual." Every eye turned toward her. Her translucent arms trembled as she adjusted the sensors. "It's coming from the moon of our second planet. There's the reflection." Zell leaned forward slowly. "A reflection?" "Yes, sir. Metallic. Structured. And it's emitting a faint energy field." No one breathed. Zell's 4 hearts began to pound again, harder this time. The truth was drawing near, and it terrified him more than any enemy fleet ever could. "Bring us closer," he whispered. The vast seeker turned toward its home moon, toward the impossible. The vast seeker slowed from warp, gliding through the darkness like a silent blade. Ahead, their home system's red sun burned weakly, bathing everything in shades of crimson and shadow. Captain Zell stood at the front of the bridge, his transparent form lit from within by a nervous pulse of light. "Engage full scan," he ordered. His voice was steady, but his inner glow betrayed him, his heart's flickering in uneven rhythm. Kier's fingers rippled over his console. Scanning the second planet now, targeting its moon. The bridge fell utterly silent. Even the usual hum of instruments seemed quieter, as if the ship itself were holding its breath. Lines of data flickered across the hollow screen. Numbers, heat signatures, density readings, all routine at first. Then a sudden spike. Kier froze. "Captain, you'd better see this." Zell turned. On the display was a clear metallic return. Angular, symmetrical, unmistakably artificial. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "It's a structure, sir. 47 units across, embedded into the northern ridge of the moon. Composition, titanium alloy and carbon fiber." "Carbon fiber?" Vri repeated, his voice sharp. "That's human material." Kier nodded slowly. "Yes, Captain. It's not ours." A heavy silence filled the room. Every crew member's internal organs dimmed, a visible expression of dread. Zell's breathing grew shallow. For cycles, he had believed humanity's claim was a bluff, an empty boast to save face. But there it was, a human outpost, sitting quietly on their doorstep. Zell's voice came out as a whisper. "How long has it been there?" "Judging by the thermal decay, less than 2 months," Kier replied. "And, Captain, there's power. A reactor still active. Possibly life support." Vri clenched his hands. This must be some kind of trick. Maybe drones, automated decoys. "Decoys don't build greenhouses," Kier interrupted. "I'm detecting organic life, plants growing under artificial light." The words hit like a physical blow. Zell gripped the railing, his body pulsing with confused colors. Violet for fear, amber for disbelief, a faint trace of blue for awe. He forced himself to speak. "Prepare a shuttle. We're going down." The crew exchanged alarmed glances. "Captain," Vri said cautiously, "we don't know what's down there. It could be a trap." "If it is," Zell replied, "then we'll spring it with our eyes open." He turned toward the viewing screen, where the moon filled half the view now, gray, lifeless, and yet hiding the most impossible secret in the galaxy. "They invited us to see it. We can't pretend we didn't." Minutes later, the shuttle broke away from the vast seeker and began its descent. The surface of the moon rose quickly, cratered plains and jagged cliffs glowing faintly under the red light of their star. Inside the shuttle, the crew sat in silence, their translucent bodies glowing faintly in the dim cabin. Zell piloted manually, his hands steady even as the veins in his arms flickered with tension. "There," Kier whispered, pointing to the viewport. Out of the darkness, a faint metallic glimmer appeared. Then more. As they drew closer, the outline of a base emerged, walls anchored into the rock, a cluster of domes and corridors, light seeping through narrow windows. It wasn't large, but it was unmistakably human. Zell's heart sank. They really did it. The shuttle landed on a small pad outside the structure. Dust swirled, then settled. The air outside was thin but breathable under suits. "Atmospheric readings stable," Vri reported. "Radiation minimal. They built this place properly." The outer door of the human base hissed open on its own. A bright white light spilled out, cutting through the moon's gray haze. "Why would they open the door for us?" Kier muttered. "Because they're not afraid," Zell replied grimly. The crew stepped inside. The corridor was clean and functional, steel floors, artificial gravity, faint hum of recycled air. Hollow signs in human language glowed along the walls. They passed a hydroponic chamber filled with green vines and bright fruits, a living reminder of Earth's life carried across the stars. Then they reached the central hall. Standing there, waiting for them, was a human. The same man from the transmission, tall, calm, smiling, his helmet tucked under one arm. "Welcome, Captain Zell," he said warmly. "Glad you made it. I was beginning to think you'd lost your nerve." Zell stared, speechless. Behind him, his crew shifted uneasily, their bodies flickering with fear and disbelief. "How?" Zell finally managed to say. His voice cracked through the comm system like breaking glass. "How is this possible?" The human smiled wider, that same unsettling confidence shining in his eyes. "Simple," he said. "You warped through space. We walked through it." Captain Zell stood frozen. His 4 hearts pounded so loudly that the others could almost hear the rhythm through his transparent chest. The human before him looked ordinary, flesh and bone, soft skin, warm eyes. And yet, everything about this moment screamed impossible. "I don't understand," Zell said at last. "You shouldn't be here. It's not possible for your kind to travel this far." The human smiled lightly, stepping closer. His boots echoed against the steel floor. You're right. By your rules, it's not possible. So we stopped following your rules. The alien crew stiffened. Their translucent forms pulsed with uncertainty. Captain Zell, the human continued, you bend space around your ships, pushing yourselves across the stars. It's brilliant, but it's heavy, slow, costly. We tried that path once. It broke our ships and our minds. So, we looked at the universe differently. He walked to a nearby console and tapped it. A projection appeared, rings of light rotating within each other, bending in strange geometric patterns. This, he said softly, is a doorway. Zell's eyes narrowed. A wormhole? You're claiming you built stable spatial tunnels. The human nodded. Not tunnels, windows. We don't bend space. We puncture it. Open one side here, another there. Step through. Instant travel. Energy efficient. Simple, once you stop thinking like everyone else. Kier's voice trembled. That violates every constant of the physical field. It can't exist. The human chuckled. That's what our scientists said too. Until one of them tried it. Zell's glow shifted to deep violet, his species' color for disbelief. You expect us to believe that your primitive world cracked the foundation of the universe? I don't expect you to believe it, the human said. I expect you to see it. He tapped the console again. The air shimmered. A circular distortion formed in the center of the room, humming softly. Through it, the aliens could see another landscape, a sandy beach beneath a golden sky, waves rolling against a distant shore. Kier stumbled backward. That's not real. The human reached out his hand and tossed a small metal tool through the glowing ring. It vanished, and an instant later, appeared on a workbench inside the holographic view of the beach. The human grinned. I left the other end open in our Earth lab. You're looking through the doorway right now. Zell's entire body glowed in panic and awe. His crew stared in silence, their organs fluttering uncontrollably. Every law they knew, every equation they trusted, was unraveling before their eyes. How? Zell whispered. How did your world achieve this before even mastering warp? Desperation, the human said simply. Your kind explores the stars because you can. We did it because we had to. Our world is fragile. Resources limited. So, we stopped thinking in straight lines and started thinking in shortcuts. He stepped through the glowing portal, disappearing for 1 second, then stepped back into the room, smiling. It's that easy. Took me to Earth and back in a heartbeat. The aliens backed away in instinctive fear. To them, this wasn't science. It was godlike. Zell's voice came out rough, uncertain. You built this here, in our system. What? The human smile faded. He looked directly at Zell, his tone now serious. Because we knew you were watching us. Your ships have been observing Earth for years. You judged us from orbit, decided we weren't worth contact. Zell froze, his internal glow dimming to gray. We wanted to prove you wrong. The human continued. Not with war. Not with threats. With truth. We wanted you to see what humanity does when someone tells us something is impossible. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the hum of the machinery seemed distant. Kier's voice was small when he spoke. You risked everything just to show us. The human nodded. Because that's who we are? You hide in the dark. We build a light bright enough to find you. Zell stared at him, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades. Respect. Terrifying, humbling respect. You could have conquered us, Zell said softly. Instead, you came to our doorstep and knocked. The human smiled again, but this time it was gentler. We're not here to conquer, Captain. We're here to connect. The universe is big enough for both of us, if you're willing to open the door. Zell turned slowly to his crew. Through their glass-like bodies, he saw what he felt in his own: shock, wonder, and the faint flicker of hope. For the first time, the captain of the vast seeker realized the terrifying truth. The primitives they mocked had already surpassed them. The air in the human colony felt heavy with meaning. Each step Captain Zell took echoed softly, his boots clanging against steel floors forged by hands he had once considered primitive. The human walked beside him with the easy calm of someone who no longer needed to prove anything. Come, said the human, his voice smooth, almost friendly. Let me show you what we've built. It's small, but it's home. Zell followed cautiously, his translucent body glowing faintly blue with unease. His officers trailed behind, whispering in low clicks that echoed through the corridor. They had spent centuries studying other species, classifying, measuring, mocking, and yet, nothing in their vast archives had prepared them for this. The group entered a long chamber lined with glowing plants. Green vines twisted under artificial light, producing oxygen for the base. Drops of condensation sparkled like stars on the leaves. "This is how we breathe here," the human explained. "Every colony we build is alive, self-sustaining. No need for supply ships." Here tilted his head, astonished. "Your world has only just begun exploring its own solar system, yet you've mastered closed-loop ecosystems." The human smiled faintly. "When you live on a dying planet long enough, you learn how to make small places survive." Zell felt something shift inside him. The human wasn't boasting. He was remembering. They moved onward to a large central room. A holographic map shimmered in the air, showing glowing points scattered across different star systems. Zell leaned closer. There were hundreds of dots. "What are these?" he asked. "Seeds," said the human. "Each one a tiny colony, sent through our portals to habitable worlds. Small, quiet, unnoticed. We don't conquer. We plant." Kier's breath caught. "You've spread this far?" "Farther," the human said softly. "Because no one else believed we could." The aliens stood silent, staring at the map. For so long, they had seen humanity as trapped on their little blue planet, loud, emotional, reckless. Yet while the galaxy mocked them, humans had been quietly building bridges between stars. Zell's voice was slow and careful. "You could have hidden all this from us. You could have built in secret." The human turned toward him. His expression was calm, but his eyes, those strange, deep eyes, held something ancient. "We could have, but that's not what neighbors do." He gestured toward the nearest wall, where a portal flickered faintly like a curtain of light. "When we opened our first doorway, it scared us. The power, the danger. But then we realized, if we could step anywhere, we could reach anyone. So we decided our first real step wouldn't be alone." Zell's glow dimmed, thoughtful. "You wanted us to find you." "Yes," the human replied. "We wanted to start with honesty. You watched us from orbit, measuring our worth by what we couldn't do. We thought it was time you saw what we did instead." The silence that followed wasn't hostile. It was heavy with realization. Bree, who had mocked humans the loudest, spoke quietly. "You could end wars before they begin. Move armies, food, medicine, anywhere in a heartbeat. You could rule the stars." The human looked almost sad. "Maybe one day someone will try. But that's not who we are. We learned early that power only means something when you share it." He turned to Zell. "You came here expecting fools with fire rockets. What you found were builders with open hands. Don't make the mistake of turning that hand away." Zell studied him for a long time. The alien captain who had mocked humanity's Stone Age machines now stood in the presence of a species that had outgrown its own limits, and done so quietly, without conquest, without arrogance. Zell bowed his head slightly. It was a gesture his people rarely used, one reserved for equals. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we were the ones still crawling." The human smiled softly. "Crawling is how everyone starts. The trick is never stopping." The room fell quiet again, but it was a different kind of silence now. Not fear, not shock, but respect. Outside the colony's viewport, the alien moon hung still and lifeless. Yet beneath its barren soil, something new had taken root. Not a war, not a conquest, a beginning. The stars outside the viewport burned quietly, as if waiting for history to decide what came next. Captain Zell stood at the center of the human colony's common room, surrounded by the soft hum of alien and human machines working in harmony. The scent of Earth soil, imported through one of their portals, drifted faintly in the air. It was the smell of something impossible, life, thriving in the unlikeliest place. The human, Ambassador Carter, he had introduced himself, stood beside him, calm and patient. He seemed to understand the storm inside the alien captain without needing to see the glow of his translucent body. Zell finally spoke. "You built this here, right under our sun. Do you realize what that means to my people?" Carter nodded. "Yes. It means you can no longer pretend we're not part of the galaxy." The captain's hearts thudded heavily. "You defied every law we know. You crossed the stars not with power, but with faith. Do you even know what you've done?" The human smile was quiet, almost weary. "We didn't come to break your laws, Captain. We came to show you there's more than one way to touch the stars." Zell turned toward the viewport, his inner glow dimming. For centuries, his kind had seen themselves as explorers, the judges of civilization. They had crossed half the galaxy to measure others, always sure of their superiority. Yet here, standing beside a fragile creature of bone and blood, he felt something deeper than shame. He felt small. "You could have hidden this," Zell said softly. "You could have watched us stumble in ignorance." "Maybe," Carter replied. "But that's not who we are. Humanity has made mistakes, wars, greed, pride. But when we learn something new, we share it, even when it scares others." Zell looked back at him. "And you're not afraid of what happens next? Of how the rest of the galaxy will react when they find out?" The human shrugged lightly. "They'll laugh at first, just like you did. But laughter doesn't stop truth. It never has." For a long moment, there was only silence between them, silence filled with the hum of life support systems and the faint whisper of recycled air. Then Zell did something none of his crew had ever seen. He knelt. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered himself until his crystalline knees touched the metal floor. The gesture sent ripples of light through his transparent skin, colors of humility and awe blending into one another. "I came here to mock your world," he said quietly, "to prove your arrogance wrong. But instead, you've shown me that our arrogance was the only primitive thing in this room." Carter stepped forward, not smiling now, just watching him with human gentleness. "Then maybe this is how civilizations grow, Captain, one humble step at a time." The alien stood again, his glow steadier now. "When I return home," he said, "I will tell our council what I've seen. I will tell them that humanity is not to be measured by their rockets or machines. You are to be measured by your defiance of limits." He extended one hand, an alien gesture that shimmered with shifting light. Carter reached out and clasped it without hesitation. Their hands, one of glass and one of flesh, met and held. At that moment, centuries of distance vanished. Zell turned to his crew, their glowing forms still frozen in disbelief. "Transmit to the vast seeker," he ordered. "Prepare our return. Inform planetary control that we come bearing new allies." "Yes, Captain," Kier said softly. As they walked back toward their shuttle, Zell looked once more at the glowing human portal still humming at the center of the colony. On the other side of that doorway, he could see the faint image of Earth, a blue world shining brighter than he had ever imagined. He whispered, almost to himself, "Maybe the universe isn't infinite. Maybe it just keeps unfolding for those brave enough to step through." Carter's voice followed him as the airlock opened. "We'll keep the door open, Captain. Always." The hatch sealed, and the shuttle rose from the moon's surface, leaving the human colony glowing like a lone ember in the dark. From orbit, the vast seeker turned slowly toward home. Behind it, humanity's outpost shimmered, a tiny, defiant spark against endless night. For the first time in recorded history, Captain Zell didn't laugh at humanity. He saluted them. And somewhere, beyond the light of both worlds, the stars themselves seemed to whisper, "Welcome, humans, to the galaxy."